Welcome to The Porch. My name is Jacob Hayes. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to listen to my thoughts on the sporting events of the past week, as well as anticipation for the ones to come. Speaking of sporting events of the past week, there weren't any, and there haven't been any for the last 3 weeks. It's been quite a bit since the NBA's been around. Of course, with March Madness being canceled, Major League Baseball pushed back their opening day. It's a little bit grim for the sports world, and it's been difficult to deal with. It's been hard to talk about things on the sports podcast when there aren't sporting events around. But that's okay. We're going to make it through. I'm still planning on keeping this podcast around. There still are plenty of things to talk about, and I'm looking forward to jumping into those things today. The last time I spoke on this podcast was in preparation for the March Madness tournament. I was looking to do a live stream on March 15th. That had been right after the selection show, working through a bracket with you guys, picking out a national champion. And it's kind of crazy to think that the national champion would have been crowned just a few days ago on April 6th. So that entire tournament has come and gone without even being played, which is just crazy to think about. In preparation for this podcast, we're going to talk about the NFL free agency. We're going to look at the most notable signings, at least in my personal opinion, a few crazy trades that went down, and it's going to give a little glimpse into the draft, which I'm going to cover in a different episode. And then we're going to go over my big whiff on Tom Brady and how my prediction was woefully wrong. And after we'll go through the NFL, we're going to take a look at something I've been thinking about since I last recorded, which is the coronavirus and its effect on the sports world. And instead of looking at it in a negative light, sports being canceled and athletes not being able to play, the NBA may not even return at all. I mean, we might miss what would have been an incredible playoffs with LeBron and the Lakers facing off with possibly Kawhi and the Clippers. And then over in the East, you have Giannis with the Bucks. And the Sixers maybe trying to pull something together, the Heat as an underdog. You have the Raptors, even without Kawhi, who are playing incredibly well. That was looking to be a fantastic postseason, and that may not even be played. It's sad and disappointing, but I want to talk about the positives that have been brought about by the coronavirus. And I think it's all about retrospection. What have we learned, and what can we remember about sports since this entire coronavirus has really taken over our world? But first, let's dive into NFL free agency. I have my list of things I want to go through, but we'll start it off with, of course, my good old friends, Tom Brady. If you remember me talking on the last podcast, I made the prediction that Tom Brady was going to return to the New England Patriots, and of course he didn't. And of the teams he went to, or the teams that he had the option of going to, I didn't even include the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I thought that the most likely options would have been the Tennessee Titans or the San Francisco 49ers. And I thought maybe the Chargers and even possibly the Raiders could be in that group. I don't know I can't remember if I mentioned those or not. But he goes to the Bucs, just way out there. Now, some people were on this from the start, and good for them. I definitely was not. Nonetheless, he's going to a team that's got some great offensive weapons that the Patriots didn't have. He's going to have Mike Evans on the outside. He's got O.J. Howard, who's a fantastic tight end, and he's there on a 2-year, $50 million guaranteed deal, which is fantastic for a man who's 43 years old, right? So, congratulations for him. And that's probably your biggest move of the NFL free agency is Tom Brady leaves the Patriots to go play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How well do I think they're going to do? They're going to be in the same division now as a team that I'm going to mention later on here with some of the signings they made, but the New Orleans Saints. And I don't know, man. The Saints are a good team, and if I had to pick right now, I don't think the Bucs are beating the Saints to win that division. If the Bucs are going to make it into the playoffs, it's going to have to be through a wild card spot. Now, the NFL is expanding the playoffs. That's something that's happened since the last time I talked on here. It could be that they fit into that last spot, but man, it's going to be crazy. I'm just excited, man. It's a lot to take in, I guess. You see Tom Brady. He's going to keep his number. He gets to keep 12, but to see him in a different uniform, especially with the pirate flag on the side, man, it doesn't sit well with me just to start. But so be it. That's the choice he wanted to go, and I'm going to enjoy watching him. We'll see how it goes. So that's the first big move. Tom Brady signs with the Bucs, 2 years, $50 million. Other notable signings, we'll go right to the Saints. The Saints re-signed Drew Brees, also on a 2-year, $50 million deal. Drew Brees is incredible. It's just going to, just more proof that the Saints are, I think they're the team to beat in the NFC. And you can put the Niners up there, but right now, man, the other signing is Emmanuel Sanders, who was the wide receiver for the 49ers. The 49ers made a trade for him with the Broncos mid-season last year. He has signed a deal with the Saints. It's a 2-year deal. I think Emmanuel Sanders, as long as he stays healthy, that man is a fantastic wide receiver. He runs routes well. He gets open, and you tie him up with Michael Thomas. And the Saints' offense is looking really, really good. They're going to be hard to beat. So you have the Saints and the Bucs. That's in the NFC South. You also got the Falcons down there. The Falcons sign another notable person, Todd Gurley, and it's on a 1-year deal. Todd Gurley was released by the Rams, and at one point in time, a few years back, Todd Gurley was the running back of the NFL. We'll see if he can revive that. He's possibly dealt with some injuries and some locker room issues, but I mean, if he can run, he can run. So I don't wish ill upon athletes, even if they're on teams that I'm not fans of. I hope Todd Gurley does fantastic, and I hope that he plays well for the Falcons and that Matt Ryan continues to play well and that you see some team success there. So that goes pretty much to the NFC South. Other QB signings, we're just going to go through because we did Tom Brady and Drew Brees. Terry Bridgewater, who was on the Saints, he signs a deal with the Carolina Panthers. That's a 3-year deal. It's worth $60 million. I think that's huge. When Drew Brees was injured last year, he was injured for a 5-game stretch. Bridgewater went 5-0 in that stretch, including going to Seattle and beating the Seahawks in Seattle. I think he's a very underrated quarterback. I like this move by the Panthers. Of course, they have a new coach with Matt Rule. I mean, I love this pickup, and I mean the Panthers got him for cheap. 3 years, $60 million. That would be $20 million a year. I think it's a fantastic pickup. I am looking forward to seeing what the Panthers can do there. That's a great pickup. I think another great deal is the franchise tag the Dallas Cowboys puts on Dak Prescott. You might be one of those people out there that thinks that he should be paid like a franchise quarterback. I am not in that boat. I think he still has to prove himself. He had a fantastic rookie campaign, and since then, I have not been impressed. The Dallas Cowboys have, for quite a while, been recognized with one of the teams with the best offensive lines. They have a great running game. They have great offensive weapons. They re-signed Amari Cooper, and yet the Dallas Cowboys still cannot perform against playoff teams, especially last year. They were 1-6. With the new coaching change, they move on from Jason Garrett, hire Mike McCarthy. I think it's quite appropriate for the Cowboys to put the franchise tag on Dak Prescott, see if he can perform in the system that Mike McCarthy has planned. And then from there, if he plays well, then make sure he gets paid. But if he doesn't get paid well, you shouldn't get paid for the events of the past you've done well. It is about what have you done for me now. I don't think Dak Prescott has done enough currently, at least in the recent past, to warrant a high paycheck for him. Other notable QB signings include Ryan Tannehill returning to the Tennessee Titans after he replaced Marcus Mariota last year. We'll get to him in a moment. I don't know if he's going to be the franchise quarterback the Titans are hoping he can be, but he did go in and beat the Patriots in Foxborough, so maybe they got something there. I am looking forward to waiting and seeing how Ryan Tannehill plays out with the Titans. Marcus Mariota signs with the Las Vegas Raiders. Still feels strange to say that instead of the Oakland Raiders. Nonetheless, outside of Derek Carr, who I'm assuming is still going to be the starter, Marcus Mariota can sit back and be the backup QB there. It's really a bummer to see him come from being an incredible quarterback at Oregon to the position he is in now. I just hope for the best of luck and success for him. And whether that be with the Raiders or another team, we're looking out for you, Marcus. Best of luck with the Raiders. And finally, the last quarterback I want to talk about is Phillip Rivers, who is no longer with the Los Angeles Chargers. He has signed a 1-year deal with the Indianapolis Colts. Of all the teams outside of the Buccaneers that were really just a quarterback away, I think that the Colts were. They're obviously planning on having Andrew Luck. He retires at the beginning of the season, so now they're back to their backup. I think Phillip Rivers can take this team that is primed to make a playoff run to go deep. He had a pretty poor year last year. I don't think that's a true reflection on who Phillip Rivers is as a quarterback. I think he's capable. As long as he minimizes his turnovers, the Colts are going to be a good team next year. Sticking with the Colts, they also made a deal with cornerback Xavier Rhodes. I think that that's a great pickup. Xavier Rhodes, being the first-round talent he is, will help anchor the defense on the outside. Rhodes has been known to just absolutely lock down top receivers on opposing teams, and that's going to be a huge boost to what was already a strong Colts defense. The Broncos made a deal signing former AFC rival running back Melvin Gordon. That's a 2-year, $16 million deal. Him in the backfield with quarterback Drew Lock is going to be fantastic. I think he does a really good job of not only running the ball well up the middle, but he's a great running back for catching passes, and I think with some fantastic motion offense. That's a great pickup. I think he's also going to be next to Philip Lindsay. Philip Lindsay is an underrated running back. That tandem is going to be fantastic in Denver. The Dolphins made a great deal with cornerback Byron Jones. It's a 5-year, $82.5 million deal. That is a lot of money putting towards a cornerback, but Byron Jones is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, if not the best. I think you could argue that. What's really fantastic about what the Dolphins are doing is they are anchoring down their defense. It is going to be one of the best in the NFL, and that is going to be huge for what kind of seems like a wide open AFC East. Now that the Patriots have lost Tom Brady along with some of their other valuable offensive and defensive assets, I mean, you have the Bills, who did go to the playoffs last year and struggled, and then you have the Dolphins, who kind of out of nowhere became a great team. In the last game of the season, the Patriots, all they had to do was win a home game at Foxborough against the Dolphins to secure the number 1 seed in the playoffs. And the Dolphins go in there, they upset them. Now the Patriots have to play in early rounds, and they lose to the Tennessee Titans. Dolphins are an underrated team. I think they're going to play really quite well next year, and a lot of that is going to be to this signing right here, Byron Jones. And the last signing I want to talk about before going into some trades is the Raiders signing linebacker Corey Littleton. Littleton is a wonderful linebacker. He's there on a 3-year, $36 million deal. The Raiders are looking like they're trying to make a little move here too, maybe sneaking into that new playoff spot. It's going to be hard to beat the Chiefs in the AFC West. And now that the Broncos are looking good too, that might be a hard team to beat as well. But signing Marcus Mariota, now signing Corey Littleton, over there they're doing some small little moves. I think John Gruden's putting together a team that might be really surprising. I mean, they're moving to a new stadium in Las Vegas. Keep your eye out for the Raiders. That be an underrated team, a little dark horse to make it into the playoffs. Now let's move on to talk about some of the trades that highlighted this NFL offseason. The first one I want to talk about is really an absurd one, and it's got to be the most surprising one this offseason. The Houston Texans decided they wanted to ship off one of the best wide receivers in the league, DeAndre Hopkins, to the Cardinals. They also moved their 2021 4th-round pick for David Johnson, a running back, and a 2020 second-round pick and a 2021 4th-round pick. This is just crazy. There's no real good reason for why this trade was made for the Texans. David Johnson has been recently injured. He's not being as productive of running back as he's been previously. They basically just swapped the 4th-round pick in 2021, and then a 2020 second-round pick is not nearly the value that DeAndre Hopkins brings. It's looking great for the Cardinals. Gives another fantastic weapon for Kyler Murray to work with. I just don't know what was going on here for the Texans. There were reports that DeAndre Hopkins was not in great connection with the general manager. There might have been some issues with their relationship. But I mean, what a horrible trade for the Texans. And if you're a Texans fan, I mean, unless you're seeing some bright side to David Johnson, this trade looks really, really bad. So really quite unfortunate. But I mean, if you're the Cardinals, now you're putting yourself in a great position to compete in what is arguably the hardest division in the NFL. Another high-profile wide receiver was shipped on out. The Minnesota Vikings moved off of Stephon Diggs, moving him to the Bills. They also move a 7th-round pick in 2020, while the Bills move 4 picks. Their 1st-round, 5th-round, and 6th-round picks in 2020, and a 4th-round pick in 2021. This is just another push for teams in the AFC East to go off for that playoff spot. And this is huge for the Bills. I think offensively, having a standout wide receiver is going to be huge for them. A great weapon for Josh Allen. And I think it's going to turn out to be a great pick for them. Stephon Diggs is one of the best wide receivers in the league. And I think for the draft equity that they put out to them, they're making a push to win now. The final trade I'd like to discuss is a swap that the 49ers made with the Colts. The 49ers sent the Colts DeForest Buckner, defensive lineman, for the 13th overall pick in this year's draft. It's great for both teams. The 49ers move off of a great player. There was no issues there. He was just going to cost them a lot of money. It would put them over in the cap. It would make it hard for them to sign the pieces that they would want to sign in this year's draft. And they get a really high draft pick in return that they can use to sign someone in that spot, or they can trade out of that spot to get more draft equity. The 49ers do not have a lot of picks in this year's draft. So it gives them really some power to force a team to move up into that spot and get some picks. Speaking of the draft, we'll get a chance to talk about that in a future episode. I'm really excited to talk about those top picks, where players might be going, and some prospects to look out for. That's enough NFL talk, though. If you have any thoughts on some of the trades I made, or if you thought I missed something, please comment down below or on my social media pages. Send me a direct message. I want to hear opinions about it. If you think one of these signings is a really bad signing, I think most of them are pretty darn good. Please let me know. I want to hear your opinions, and I want to start that discussion. But now I want to talk about what I had referenced at the beginning of the podcast, which is what I think the coronavirus has done in the sports world in a positive light. Of course, it's been negative in that sports aren't happening, right? The NBA has stopped. MLB pushed back their opening day. March Madness was canceled. Those are really doom and gloom things. No one wants that to happen. Nonetheless, throughout this time, I think there have been some really, really cool things that have happened in the sports world, and a lot of it has to do with remembering the athletes that have come before us. Think about what has been in your social media feed recently in regards to sporting events. What has ESPN or SportsCenter been posting? What's your favorite league been posting? Maybe your favorite team if you follow their social media account. Almost everything has been historical events within that organization, or for that player, or for that sports league. And what it showed me is how awesome sports history is. There are so many incredible events that have occurred that it is impossible to remember all of them. And so this time has opened up my eyes to these incredible feats that I had no clue even happened, or totally forgot happened. A great example of this is on the social media page for the San Francisco Giants. They're posting through all these old players during the Giants when they first moved to San Francisco. One of those players is pitcher Juan Marichal. He's famous for the high leg kick in his windup. And I knew he was a good player. I knew he's a Giants legend, one of the best pitchers. And after watching him pitch and watching the camera angles and the movement on his pitches, I just came to a new appreciation for Juan Marichal. Same thing for Larry Bird. And Larry Bird's one of my favorite basketball players, and I've watched videos with him previously. But now I'm even watching newer videos that I hadn't seen previously, and interviews from athletes and other players about Larry Bird's trash talking and how he was just so confident and dominant. And I loved it. It was awesome. It gave me a new appreciation and love for the sports that I love watching. So I want you to think about these last 3 weeks and this time to come where there aren't going to be any current sporting events. Remember the sporting events that make you love the sport you watch. Cherish them. Read about them. Watch them. Share them with somebody else. I think that's what has happened. That's what's beautiful about what's happened over these last 3 weeks because of the coronavirus. As a sports world, we have spent the time to take a step back and remember what has brought us to this point. And I think that's invaluable. I think it's invaluable. And it for me, I just now am more energetic about sports than I ever have been. And sports aren't even playing. It's a sad time, right? March Madness was canceled. I was so distraught when March Madness was canceled. I don't know how if I can put that through so that you guys are listening. I was torn. I had spent so much time reading about all these different teams, and I was so hyped because I was going to have the first perfect bracket ever. It was going to be awesome. But nonetheless, with all of the sports history that has been heaped upon over these last 3 weeks, I have just come to love it more. And so I encourage you to think about your favorite sports teams, your favorite sports leagues, your favorite players. and go back and read about them. Watch them and re-experience what makes you love that sport. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to try to post some of that stuff that I see on Twitter or on some of my other social media accounts. I really haven't been doing that. I've just kind of been in awe. I've saved a few things, so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you all. And if you don't have a subscription to The Athletic, I'm not sponsored by them. The Athletic is a sports news source that I have a subscription to, and they are just fantastic, and they have done such a wonderful job of incorporating sports history into the content they've been pushing out. One of them has been a history of baseball, where this guy's gone through the top 100 players of all time, and it's helped me to appreciate the sport of baseball more. And so you ever have a chance, please subscribe to The Athletic. I'm not sponsored by them, but I love their content. And it's a yearly subscription. You can do it month by month. And if you want a deal on it, send me a direct message. Because I have a subscription there, I can send you one of my friend links, and then we can hook you up. So, spend some time to sit and think and remember about the sporting events, the sporting athletes, what makes you fall in love with the sport you're watching. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Porch. I'm using a different mic and kind of a different setup from what I was using previous. I had been given the opportunity to use equipment from the school, from George Fox University, through some classes that I'm a part of. Of course, with school being canceled, moving to online, I no longer have access to that equipment, so I'm borrowing a friend's microphone. I might sound a little bit funky. I'm still trying to get used to it. And also because I'm not online, also because I am not at school anymore, I don't have access to the software that I was using previously. So now I'm working through GarageBand. So I'm kind of learning things as I go. If you enjoyed the podcast, I would love it if you liked it or commented or subscribed on whatever service you're listening to. And I'd love it if you could share it with your friends if you think someone would be interested in what I'm speaking about in regards to the sports world. Let them know that there's this podcast out there. I would really appreciate that. Thanks again for tuning in. Keep making it happen.